With us, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to get started today with the latest out of Gaza, where this morning Israel's defense minister says Hamas's operations in the northern part of the Strip are on the verge of collapse.
The IDF is now expanding operations in the south. Officials say soldiers are operating deep underground, working to destroy Hamas's infrastructure. A U.S. official says the Israeli military has started pumping seawater into tunnels in limited areas of Gaza. The move is part of an effort to destroy an underground network where the IDF says Hamas fighters are hiding and keeping hostages captive. The humanitarian crisis in the territory is worsening. Officials with the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza say the death toll has now surpassed 18,000, two-thirds of which women and children. 90% of Gaza's 2.2 million people have been displaced, and aid agencies estimate that half of the population faces starvation. Yesterday, the United Nations General Assembly demanded an immediate ceasefire in the war. About three-quarters of the body's members voted in favor of the resolution, but the U.S. rejected it. Though President Biden does appear to be drawing a line in the sand with Israel, offering his hardest criticism since the war began. It was behind closed doors at a fundraiser, with the president announcing what he called indiscriminate bombing in Gaza and warning Israel that it is losing global support.
We have live team coverage this morning. In just a moment, we'll speak with NBC News military analyst and Medal of Honor recipient Colonel Jack Jacobs. But we're going to get started with NBC News correspondent Hala Garani in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, let's start with Israel's military offensive in Gaza. Israel says it is making progress. So what's the latest?
Right, Joe and Savannah. Well, you mentioned there that the Israeli military is going deeper into Gaza. It is continuing to expand its operations. And that really is despite these reports that Joe Biden, the U.S. president, is behind closed doors, but also more and more openly pressing the government of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to perhaps wrap things up. There is limited time, according to many of the sources we're speaking to keep this operation going at its current levels of intensity, certainly. Now, you spoke of the military operation. The Israeli Defense Forces are announcing the deaths of 10 soldiers overnight, 9 in a single ambush in the Shajia neighborhood in the northern part of the Gaza Strip that is outside of Gaza City. So what you're seeing here is really an intensification of the military operation. And when the Israeli Defense Minister says that Hamas is on its last legs, it is certainly able to still cause a lot of damage and a lot of pain to the Israeli military. So, and in the last few days has continued to send rockets. So this is the messaging that is being sent to the Israeli people in this country, but it is not on the ground, it seems, what is being felt by the military in the Strip as it continues its offensive.
Let's talk more about these calls for a ceasefire that are growing this morning. That vote, we referenced it in the UN. It's the second like it in a matter of days. Also, the second time that the U.S. has voted against it. Let's talk, though, about this growing international pressure for a ceasefire. Is it possible that that could actually happen?
Well, we're not hearing that the Israeli government is heeding those calls. They are continuing. They're at least publicly saying that they will continue until they reach and complete their military aims, which is the complete dismantling of Hamas. But don't forget, Hamas is not just a military group. It is also a government. It is also at every level of the civilian infrastructure inside of the Gaza Strip. So defeating it militarily doesn't mean defeating it as an ideology and as a group with the aims that it has. So militarily, it is a long shot, but certainly in terms of completely dismantling the group, there are many observers that would tell you that it is practically an impossibility. And so these stated military aims, are they even achievable? That is going to be the big question going forward.
And Hala, those growing concerns for a ceasefire have been fueled by the humanitarian situation that continues to unfold in Gaza. On Tuesday, the Palestinian foreign minister accused Israel of starving Gazans. It is a charge Israel calls obscene. Take us through what is happening on the ground.
Well, the UN aid agencies on the ground would agree with the Palestinian foreign minister and not with the Israeli government. They are saying, the World Health Organization, for instance, that 9 out of 10 Gazans don't eat every day and that half the territory is indeed on the verge of starvation. There is very little food going in. There is very little aid, almost no fuel. And the U.S., by the way, the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is saying that more crossings need to be open into Israel, including the Kerem Shalom crossing, which is on the Israeli side at the intersection of Egypt, Israel, and Gaza, not just for inspection, as the Israelis have agreed to, but also for transit of some of these commercial and aid trucks. That hasn't happened yet, and there is pressure as well on that front on the Israelis for that to happen. Back to you.
All right, Hala Garani, thank you so much.
Let's now bring in NBC News military analyst Colonel Jack Jacobs. He's also a Medal of Honor recipient, friend of the show. Colonel Jacobs, good morning. Thanks for joining us. I want to start with one of the new details that Joe mentioned at the top, the flooding of Hamas's tunnels. What do you make of that as a military tactic, and are the potential risks worth what Israel might gain from this move, especially knowing that they're still not aware of where all the hostages are?
Well, it's an ancient tactic, and it's been used successfully down through millennia. The objective here is to force Hamas up out of the 300, 400 miles of tunnels, have them come to the surface. The alternative is to send soldiers down into these tunnels, which is dangerous for the IDF, is labor-intensive, and is very, very time-consuming. Netanyahu is under a great deal of pressure to wrap this up as quickly as possible, pressure from both inside and outside Israel. This tactic may just give him an opportunity to get Hamas to come out of the tunnels and close down the offensive much more quickly than if they went house to house, basement to basement, tunnel to tunnel.
We're talking about those comments from President Biden this morning. A little context here. He says Israel does have the right to take on Hamas, has most of the world supporting them, but they're starting to lose international support with the, quote, indiscriminate bombing. What does this tell us about the tensions right now in the relationship between the U.S. and Israel? How does this impact the overall war now, and how could it impact the war into the future?
Well, the relationship has been strained, has always been strained, and is certainly strained now. And the question of whether or not bombing is indiscriminate or not, it depends on who you are. If you're at the bottom of the food chain in an engagement with Hamas, there is no such thing as indiscriminate bombing. It's all discriminate. We become inured to notions of perfect intelligence, precision-guided munitions. They always hit their target and so on, and that's never true at the point of decision when you're on the ground. The real argument, longer-term argument between the United States and Israel on this subject is not the bombing, but something else that was brought up about who is going to govern Gaza once the war is over. Israel says no way that the PLO is going to be involved. And the United States says, no, the Palestine organization must be the people who are going to govern. That's a big, big gulf, and it's not going to be resolved. Netanyahu can say no Palestine Liberation Organization involved, but Israel has already experienced trying to govern Gaza in the past, didn't like it very much and left very quickly. The real issue is what happens when the war is over, both to the Palestinian people, to the Gazan people, and the relationship between Israel on the one hand and the Arab nations in the region on the other, Joe.
All right, Colonel Jack Jacobs, thank you very much for joining us on this morning.
Sure.
Harvard University's governing body says that embattled school president Claudine Gay will remain in that role. Her future was in question after her widely criticized testimony before Congress last week about anti-Semitism. But in an announcement Tuesday, the school says Gay is the right leader for the Harvard community, that she has apologized for how she handled her testimony. Gay, along with the presidents of Penn and MIT, were criticized after they seemed to dodge a question on whether students calling for the genocide of Jews should be punished. Penn President Liz McGill stepped down last weekend. Gay became Harvard's president less than 6 months ago.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Education has announced it's investigating 6 universities over alleged ethnic discrimination, including anti-Semitic or Islamophobic activities on campuses. They're looking into alleged violations specifically of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. This is at Stanford, UCLA, Rutgers, UCSD, the University of Washington, and Whitman College in Washington State. Title VI prohibits discrimination based on race or national origin, including shared ancestry or ethnic characteristics. Stanford, Rutgers, and UCSD say they will cooperate with the federal investigation, but the other schools have not yet responded to a request for comment.
Turning to the ongoing battle in Congress for Ukraine military funding, President Zelenskyy visited Capitol Hill and the White House yesterday, making a personal appeal to lawmakers. He's facing skepticism from some Republicans in Congress. NBC senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has more.
With the war raging and a brutal winter fast approaching, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy is making an urgent plea to Congress and President Biden.
In Ukraine, we are fighting for our country and freedom.
The U.S. has already sent $111 billion in military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine since Russia's invasion began. But that money's running out. The Biden administration has been urging Congress to approve a new $106 billion package that includes roughly $60 billion for Ukraine, as well as support for Israel and money to strengthen the U.S.-Mexico border.
Putin is banking on the United States failing to deliver for Ukraine. We must prove him wrong.
Zelenskyy's hastily planned U.S. trip is a dramatic difference from his first wartime visit last year, where he arrived to a hero's welcome. Zelenskyy met with lawmakers behind closed doors. Skeptical Republicans want to overhaul immigration policies at the U.S. southern border before they sign off on any new money for Ukraine.
Our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security first. The border is an absolute catastrophe, and this is because of the policies of this White House and this administration.
The House Speaker also saying he wants an accounting of U.S. money already sent to Ukraine, and that Zelenskyy has not provided a clear strategy to win. The war has largely become a stalemate. In recent months, Ukraine taking back no major Russian-held territory as its latest counteroffensive mostly fizzled. But the White House, in newly declassified intelligence, says the Russian military has suffered more than 13,000 casualties since October. Meanwhile, Zelenskyy with a sharp rebuke for some Republicans calling for peace talks and suggesting Ukraine give up territory.
That's insane, to be honest. I have a question to these people if they are ready to give up their children to terrorists. I think no.
Well, our thanks to Gabe for that report. It's looking increasingly unlikely that a deal gets done this week before lawmakers head home for the holidays. These talks, therefore, could drag on into January, something the Biden administration says could critically hamper the Ukrainian war effort.
The House of Representatives is set to vote today on a measure to authorize an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. On Tuesday, the House Rules Committee voted along party lines to formalize that inquiry. That's setting up today's vote. This all comes the same day as Republicans prepare to depose the president's son, Hunter Biden, and potentially hold him in contempt of Congress if he does not appear. NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now with the latest. Julie, good morning to you. So let's begin with today's vote in the House. Republicans don't have really any room to lose many voters because of that small majority. Why is this an important procedural hurdle for Republicans, and what can we expect today?
Yeah, they can just afford to lose about 3 votes, and that's why they really need all Republicans on board for this inquiry to formalize it with this vote in order to even put that on the floor. So for all these reasons, we do anticipate that Republicans will have the vote to formalize this inquiry. Now, remember, this is not officially voting on articles of impeachment against the president. This is just formalizing the inquiry. Began under ousted Speaker Kevin McCarthy back in September. This is really a key step because not only will it give Congress the tools to enforce other measures down the road when it comes to this impeachment inquiry, but also it shows that moderate Republicans have come around to this inquiry. We heard a couple of them since the latest charges came down against Hunter Biden. For example, Mike Lawler of New York saying that they support Republicans' fact-finding mission, though I should note that through the last several months that they've held this investigation, they have not been able to link any evidence of wrongdoing between the president and his son Hunter. That has been the focus of the committee's investigation.
So, Julie, Hunter Biden is facing a 9-count federal indictment on tax charges. However, his legal team has said if his last name was anything other than Biden, the charges would not have been brought. That's a quote from them. So what information are Republicans looking to get from him, and what does happen if he does not show up?
Yeah, remember that impeachment inquiry vote on the floor is supposed to happen tonight, but this morning, the committees on the Judiciary and the Oversight Committee, the panels that really have been leading the charge into investigating Hunter Biden, they expect still to see him behind closed doors today because they deposed him, remember, last month as part of depositions to multiple individuals, including the president's brother, James. So today, the panel is still getting ready to see Hunter Biden before closed doors. As you point out, though, Hunter's lawyer, Abby Lowell, has said very clearly that his client, while he's open to appearing before the panel in a public setting, does not want to appear behind closed doors because they are afraid that Republicans would misconstrue parts of his testimony. That being said, if and when Republicans are able to formalize this impeachment inquiry, they are then able to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. Take a listen to what James Comer had to say and why it's so important for them to hear from Hunter Biden.
I think every American should be concerned about what the Irish whistleblowers have said about the preferential treatment the Biden family has gotten. And the most important thing the Irish whistleblowers testified was that they were closing in on Joe Biden. And again, this isn't an investigation or an impeachment inquiry of the president's son. This is an impeachment inquiry of the president of the United States.
Now, if Hunter Biden does not show up before the panel today, the full House would have to vote in order to hold him in contempt of Congress. It's a process we saw play out while the January 6th committee was investigating and, of course, had to enforce certain subpoenas when those witnesses did not show up.
Julie, while we have you, I want to ask you about a letter that a group of bipartisan senators sent to the UN Secretary General. They're calling for an investigation into alleged sexual violence by Hamas during the October 7th attack on Israel. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, guys, this is a letter that we obtained first at NBC News, and it's a group of almost 3 dozen senators, 33 of them, bipartisan group, including bipartisan Senate women. And this letter was led by Jackie Rosen, a Democrat from Nevada, also a prominent Jewish member of the Senate. And what they are calling for the UN to do here is to open an independent investigation into the alleged crimes of sexual violence and rape against hundreds of women on October 7th, hundreds of Israeli women. And independent is the key word here because the UN last month did say that they were investigating this matter as part of their general investigation into war crimes on both sides. They wanted Israel to provide information, to cooperate in this inquiry. Israel has dismissed the inquiry as one-sided and as too late. Now you have this group of senators who are calling for this independent investigation. I want to read you a part of what Rosen had said in this letter. She said, quote, "Too many prominent international organizations and leaders have chosen to dismiss, downplay, or outright deny Hamas's widespread use of sexual violence and rape." The letter seeks for the UN to investigate Hamas's atrocities.
All right, Julie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, let's get you some economic news now. The Federal Reserve is expected to keep interest rates unchanged for a third straight time out of their meeting today.
The decision comes after inflation edged lower in November, down to 3.1% year over year.
Here to preview today's decision is Investopedia's editor-in-chief, Caleb Silver. Caleb, always great to have you. Good morning. So many economists think we're now done with these hikes and also that we might start to hear the Fed lay this groundwork to actually start to make cuts next year, right? Tell us, what do you think about that? What are markets previewing?
Yeah, is today the turning point where the Fed alludes to the fact that they may start to reduce interest rates sooner in 2024 than expected? That's been the drumbeat for the past several months. That's why the stock market has rallied so aggressively. They are going to hold today. The question is what happens in the next meetings in January, what happens in March. So if you look at what traders are betting on, they're betting the Fed starts cutting rates as early as May, and that is why you've seen the rally. But the Fed Chair Powell doesn't like to tip his cap or tip his hand to that. He'll be very careful about what he says.
You talk about how we're less interested today, perhaps, in what the decision is over a rate cut, more interested in what Powell says afterward. We can also expect these projections, new projections on unemployment, inflation, economic growth. What are you looking for?
Yeah, words matter. So are the words going to be dovish? or are they going to be hawkish, dovish, meaning are they going to lighten up? Are they going to say things like the economy's cooling, financial conditions have loosened, or hawkish and say acceleration of inflation lately, it may come, we need more additional policy firming? That's what we're going to be tuning into. And then the summary of economic projections from the Fed governors. Are they looking at an economy that's growing next year or slowing precipitously, potentially into a recession? And then the most boring but most important chart in economics for econ wonks like me and Brian, the dot plot. Where do they see interest rates a year from now? Very important to consumers because that affects everything from our mortgages, our car loans, and our credit card loans.
Oh, yeah. So is this good news for the consumer, what we anticipate hearing today? What does this mean for wallets?
Yeah, it means you're not going to see rates continue to rise. In fact, they are starting to go down, but they're still really high. The 30-year fixed, 7.75% if you're trying to get a new home right now. If you have great credit, new cars, 6 to 7%. Credit cards, 22 to 25% APRs. All these are high, but they're not going to go higher. And you're going to see mortgage rates come down in the spring. You're going to see a loosening of those interest rates across the boards.
All right, Caleb, we will wait to hear your analysis of those few little words that mean so much.
And
Caleb.
the dots.
Yeah,
And the dots.
And the dots.
The most boring and important chart.
Dots and the words. Caleb, thank you very much.
Millions across the South should get ready for wet weather through the weekend. For more, let's get a check on your morning news. Now, weather forecast.
That means Angie Lastman is with us. Hi, Andrew. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning, guys. We've got a couple of spots to watch. And yes, it does mostly impact the southern tier of the country. This morning, we're closely watching some rain that has developed across parts of Texas. So it's really focused across the southwest and the southern plains in the short term. But then we'll switch gears and talk about some rain for the state of Florida and the southeast. Here's the southwest, though. There's that system that we're going to watch. Mainly moving into West Texas today brings plenty of rain to folks there. We'll see some really heavy rain be possible over the next 48 hours for folks there. But notice there's also a wintry mix and even some snow across portions of southern Colorado and New Mexico. This continues, unfortunately, for tomorrow, too. So we're still going to need the umbrellas in some of the same spots. We'll see some of that rain, though, move into portions of the central plains, parts of Kansas and Oklahoma get in on the action as well. And we'll see a good amount of snow in some spots, mainly in portions of New Mexico and in Colorado. We'll see some of those higher totals, especially the higher up you go over 7,500 feet. You could see up to 2 feet of snow. Otherwise, 5 to maybe 10 inches in most of those other areas. Now, the rainfall totals through Thursday, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of rain, but we could see some flooding issues for folks in Texas, especially here in the coming days. Then, as we transition into Friday and Saturday, we start to see this system develop over parts of the Gulf of Mexico. We'll start to see those rain chances increasing across Florida, especially Saturday as we get into the afternoon hours. Winds will also be a concern, too. And we've got plenty of moisture to tap into. The farther south you look into the Caribbean, there is just ample moisture for this system to bring right into the state of Florida and then eventually moving into parts of the southeast. This means the heavy rain, the strong wind, that's going to move up the coast just in time for your Sunday plans. It'll be unsettled across the southeast. And we could see the chance for some of that coastal flooding and the flash flooding, especially, again, across most of Florida and stretching into parts of the southeast. You can see where those brighter kind of the crimson color is. 3 inches of rain expected. Places like Fort Lauderdale running way above average for total rainfall so far this year. Over 100 inches of rain they've received, and their average is closer to 50. So they do not need any more rain, and we've got really saturated grounds across many spots in Florida, and that means that the flooding concern will definitely be there, especially you can see across portions of southeastern Florida. So this will be something, guys, that we watch well into the weekend. It doesn't wrap up until we head into our next work week.
All right, there you go. Andrew Lastman, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.